Hey guys and gals, Nary here from Drakewing Gaming. It's something on Twitter, the Gaming Drag. Today I'm coming back at you another Let's Play episode of Kingsguard, Leandros' Path. So y'all, before we jump right into it, just wanted to let y'all know that our Patreon is now for as little as $5. Y'all can help support the channel, get some awesome rewards like permanent access to our community Discord server and full access to upcoming Not Safe for Work videos. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump right back in. Alarm chain, you are up, and let's go. Go! Jaws pushed you out of the way and took the beast's attack head on. As you picked yourself off the jungle floor, all you could do was stare in fear. The two large creatures wrestled through the woods, slamming each other into the trees and fighting to keep themselves from being pinned down by the other. It was a mad brawl of brawn where strength reigned supreme. It was a fight that if you weren't careful in where you stood, they likely would have trampled over you. You hobbled over towards a tree and took cover and tried to follow along. It was almost as though the two of them were invisible, despite their enormous sizes. One moment you would have them in their sights, and the moment you blinked they were gone. Even just listening to the sounds didn't help you locate where they were, as their feral roars and howls echoed all around you. It finally came to a stop, sending leaves, roots, and dirt flying as they skid into a clearing. Neither moved. It was two beasts heaving, waiting for the next opportunity to strike fist or get the upper hand. It was then that your eyes went wide as you finally got a good look at the aggressor. Even with his fur mangled in knots and twigs sticking out of his mane, you could still tell who he was. Leon! He slightly regretted calling him as he turned attention back at you, glaring with pupils large and dilated and once amber colors looking crimson. He was a mess, worse off than some of the homeless citizens you had back in Havana. Even his Kingsguard gear, which he always took the extra mile to keep it clean and shiny, had a layer of dirt and grime. His sword was still strapped to his side. Honestly, it looked like it was getting in the way of his fight. Instead, your Kingsguard was charging on all fours like some kind of rabid animal, letting his claws do the talking. What are you still doing here? Don't hurt him! That's Leon! Who? Leandros ignored you and went back after Jaws, who could do little but push him back. Leon, what are you doing? It's me! You yelled at the top of your lungs, but he still kept on with his assault. I don't know who this Leon guy is. Ah! Jaws was only given a moment to lunge low to the ground, just barely dodging your guardian. But he's obviously too far gone to see reason. The last time you saw Leandros fight such a way was back at the castle, and it horrified the both of you to see him act that way. Ah! Jaws was slammed into a tree with only a few seconds to recuperate before Leandros came in with tooth and nail. Leandros, stop! Your voice croaked as you belted at the top of your lungs, but it was loud enough to pull Leandros' attention away, allowing Jaws to narrowly miss a swipe from his claws. What are you doing? Stay back! Leandros' ears tilted back, and he jumped away from Jaws, who was planning a counter. The beastman darted back and forth through the forest, headed straight for you. He leapt high, claws out, ready to pounce down on you. You only put your hands up as he braced for his attack. You were tackled down onto the floor and nearly had the wind knocked out of you. When you opened your eyes, you were staring into the pupils of your sworn knight. His jaws open and ready to rip you to shreds. Leon! A throaty growl escaped from his mouth, and you were sure this was going to be the end. Like now, water time. A gruesome death by the hand of the one who swore his own life to protect you. Yet, he hesitated. His fearsome expression only softened slightly, but it didn't finish the job. Hold on, your majesty! Leon, you recognize me, right? Jake? Leandros shivered. His mouth closed and his eyes went to the back of his skull. Ah! You couldn't roll away as he collapsed down, his entire heavy body pinning you to the earth and knocking the wind out of you. Leon? He didn't seem to be moving. His heartbeat next to yours only 3 times faster, and his breath was labored and hot. Actually, his entire body was burning up. You tried to push him up, but he weighed a ton. Even trying to inch your way out from under him seemed impossible as well. Ah! Stop! Jaws leapt through the air, ready to attack, but you inched your arms out from underneath Leandros and raised them to ward him off. The Sharkman slammed hard into the ground beside you and ended up with a mouthful of dirt. You tried to wiggle again, but you were just too weak to move Leandros. The most you could accomplish was lifting one of his arms, which came back down the thud. It was like you were trapped under a log, a large, hairy, muscular log. Ugh. Jaws rolled on the ground. You thought he was in pain from the crash, but as he opened his mouth and spat out mud and leaves with a disgusted expression, you got the feeling he was okay. As soon as he got up, he took a close look at the man who attacked him. You're okay. Yeah. He passed out. Could you get me out? I'm stuck and he's much heavier than he looks. Oh, right away. Jaws rolled Leandros onto his back and helped you back up. You dusted yourself off, and the two of you looked at your would-be assailant. So he's passed out, just like that. Jaws stretched out his peg leg and carefully tried shaking the lion. Yeah. Did you strangle him while he wasn't looking or something? What? No, I would never. He just said my name and passed out. So then you know him. Yes, but he would never attack me. I don't know what happened to him, but it was like he wasn't even thinking. Well, by the way he was fighting, I'm not sure whether there was a beast man or an animal in there. Could you maybe stop poking him? Just gotta make sure he's not gonna wake up and attack us again. He leaned in to check back up on Leandros. Hey, it's not safe to get near him. Leandros is my guardian. He is family to me. He wouldn't hurt me for no reason. It looked like he was having trouble breathing, not to mention sweating profusely. He was always there for you when you were sick, staying by your bedside all through the night, even when he had the drills in the early morning. You couldn't even think of what you needed to do for him, and it pained you to see him struggling so. Hey, mind if I check on him? Don't hurt him. I won't. Just need to be sure of something. Jaws inched closer to Leandros and opened one of his eyes. He murmured to himself, then checked his heart and temperature of his forehead. Yep, seems about right. What? Got a bad case of Red Sea. How can you tell? Been around long enough to have seen it 1 or 2 times, but the bloodshot eyes are the giveaway. Second now, water time. So he's sick then, but how come he didn't even recognize me? Likely mania, one of the symptoms. His might be the worst case I've seen. Will he be alright? Hard to say. We have a healer on the island who'll be able to take a look at him. But he'll need to see her soon. He's not gonna die, is he? You could feel panic flow through your veins. It was a tenseness you didn't ever want to feel again. That feeling of losing someone. So long as we treat him quickly, he should be. He just needs a remedy and a bit of rest. For now, though, you probably shouldn't get too close to him. There's no telling when he might lash back out again at us. The village shouldn't be that far from here. Let's get moving. But wait! We can't just leave him here. He'll be right back. Besides, there isn't anything dangerous on this island. And I'll stay here. I'm not just gonna leave him alone. Alright, it's dangerous, but I'll carry him back. You will? But the moment he starts showing signs of violence, don't hurt him. I'll do what I can, but you'll need to get out of here so you don't hurt him. So you don't get hurt. Restraining a beast man without hurting them is a lot harder than it sounds, even for a guy like me. Jaws bent down and went about lifting up Leandros. Oh boy, you aren't kidding. He did say he was gaining a bit of weight recently. Just gotta make sure I lift with the knees. Lift with the knees, he says, with a peg leg. Well, I mean, his knee is probably still there. I don't know if it's a whole peg. Yeah. Oh, just part of his leg is gone. Jaws threw Leandros over his shoulder like an empty sack, and you heard him groan. Thank you, Jaws. Yeah, I can't very well say no to Esther and Marilyn's favorite nephew. And he looks like he really means a lot to you. He does. I couldn't imagine losing him. And I'll be sure to take good care of him. Let's go, though, because he's really heavy. The two of you continued your trek through the island. Even with carrying Leandros' body, Jaws was still able to stay several paces ahead of you. You did the best you could to keep up, pushing yourself so hard you were certain you would pass out, but you didn't want to be a burden. You're already starting to hate nature in all of its untouched glory. First there was the hot sun, making the day warmer and more humid by the minute. Then there was the insects, the countless mosquitoes trying to make a meal out of you. You lost count of the number of red hand marks on your body. All right, we're here. Josh pushed away some branches and let you pass first. The dense forest gave way to a primitive village with less than 24 huts made of wood, straw, and leaves. You turned your attention to the islanders, who were all busy and moved with purpose in the hot sun. They hauled around nets loaded with fish, baskets of fruit, and 2 men carried what appeared to be a dead boar tied to a stick. Small children scurried around, and the adults yelled at them whenever they got in the way. It reminded you a lot of the Central Market in Havana. They wore very little clothing, but it stood out with its vibrant colors, yet simple geometric designs. Though if anything, with what you were wearing, you likely stood out more. The women wore dresses or 2-piece wrappings around their chest and waist. Some let their hair flow free, while others tied and tucked it under a cloth wrapped around their head. Thank you, water time. The men mostly wore simple loincloths showing off their rock-hard physiques from years of hard labor. Both sexes adorned themselves with necklaces, bracelets, and anklets made from seashells, bones, flowers, feathers, and leaves. Everything looked so simplistic, modest, and natural. As you wandered further in, you noticed a lack of beastmen. Everyone apart from Jaws and Leandros was human here. Before you had even taken a few steps into the village, they all stopped and stared in curiosity, whispering amongst themselves. It was a bit unnerving to this kind of attention, but as you looked at Jaws, he seemed to pay them no mind, moving on as though they didn't exist. If this was his hometown, you'd have thought that someone would have at least come up to greet him. It was almost as though they were being cautious. Not much to look at, ain't it? It's, quaint, I guess? Probably thinking it's a shithole, aren't you? No! No need to be so kind. You won't hurt my feelings. Small villages like these aren't really the most exciting places for a city-grown man. But out here, it's all they got. This place really hasn't changed in the slightest. Despite claiming this place to be his hometown, it almost sounded as though he hadn't been here in a long time. It seems peaceful, at least. Now, not everywhere has to be as bustling like the capital. I've sometimes wished I could have escaped to a place far away like this. You don't say. I thought you would have sneered at this. There's little to do out here. There's little to do out here but work. I think it's fine just the way it is. Well, hopefully this place doesn't bore you too quickly. It's a small island, so there isn't much to do. Well, my old home was at the far end of the village. Leandros groaned and stirred on Jaws' back. He opened his eyes for a moment to look around before shutting them again. Let's keep moving so we can set him down to rest. After a short jaunt, the two of you made it to the outskirts. Ahead was a lonely hut isolated from the rest of the village. You had to tread carefully as your feet and legs became tangled in the overgrowth, nearly causing you to trip. The house had the same issue as the wild, was already well on its way to claiming the home for itself. The two of you walked up onto his weathered porch that creaked with each step and wondered if it would even hold. You stopped at the door and tried to push it open, but it didn't budge. Using your entire body, you rammed into the door at your side, but all it gave you was a bruise. Mind standing back for a second? He distanced himself from the door and you moved out of the way. After balancing Leandros on his shoulder, he went running in. Hey, are you sure you should be doing that with... Ha! Jaws kicked hard and the door unhinged, flying right into the home. The sound of some kind of pot shattering reverberated inside. You coughed and waved a large cloud of dust out of your face. Guess I don't even know my own strength. Might have used a bit too much force there. Just a bit. It was always a tricky door, but that was entirely my fault. I was never much of a craftsman. I suppose I have no choice but to fix that later. Leaves and straw littered the floor, and a thick layer of dirt covered nearly everything. The inside looked far worse than the out. You weren't even sure if you could call this single room a home. Second, y'all. Water time. Make yourself at home. Jaws kicked aside some straw to craft a makeshift bed for Leandros, but from the looks of it, it likely was the bed. He set Leandros down and stretched his back. I'll be back in a second. Leave if he begins to stir. I'll be alright. I don't want you to be taking any chances. He's not the same man you knew, at least not right now. He stared at Leandros. He seemed to be stirring in his sleep, obviously in discomfort. He sat beside him and watched and waited. He looked pained as he grunted every so often, but there wasn't anything to do that could ease him. Stay strong. He reached out a hand to move a bit of his hair out of his eyes. Jake! His hand suddenly reached out and gripped onto your arm before you could pull away. You freaked out and tried to dash, but even though he was sick, he still had plenty of strength to keep you put. I'm sorry. Leandros kept his eyes closed and you wondered if he was talking. He was talking in his sleep. It's all right. You're going to be okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to attack you. He opened one eye and his head lazily tilted towards you. His speech was slurred and his eyelids kept drooping. You aren't safe in my care. I can't protect... Leandros swallowed hard. He must have been dehydrated as he looked to be in pain and just doing that. Leon, just hang on. Don't speak anymore. He took your other hand and rubbed his arm, hoping it would comfort him. I should never have been your... Leon? His eyes started to close and his breathing slowed. Leon! You shook him hard. No, Leon, you better stay awake. You pressed your head to his chest and his heart was still beating, but this time so very slowly. Hey, what are you doing near him? He turned around and found Jaws standing in the doorway, but he didn't arrive alone. A human woman carrying a basket of what looked like herbs pushed him aside and entered in a hurry. I think he's dying! The woman stared down at Leandros and quickly rushed to his side. She immediately put her hand to his forehead and heart. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and check out our Patreon if you can. It always helps. Before I go, I'm going to give a quick shout out to my bronze tier patrons. Thank you all for all y'all do. We greatly appreciate you. Thank you to our silver tier patron, Cade Silvermoon. Thank you for going a bit above and beyond. It's greatly appreciated. And thank you to our gold tier patron, Amr. We love you and you are awesome, and we hope you enjoy your new icon. And anyway, if y'all want your names in the credits, it's as little as $5. Anyway, I love you all, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye!